Welcome to an episode of Penguin Press Volumes, the podcast where our editors share the inside scoop about their new books and where you can listen to a sneak peek of the audiobook. On today's episode, we're discussing Lucky Loser by Russ Buettner and Suzanne Craig. Listen to editor Ann Godoff discuss the new book, on sale today.
Lucky Loser: How Donald Trump Squandered His Father's Fortune and Created the Illusion of Success. I'm not going to be able to fit everything I have to say about Lucky Loser in this audio. It is, first and foremost, a masterpiece of investigative journalism from the two New York Times reporters that won the Pulitzer Prize for their jaw-dropping reporting on Trump and his money. Will this book change hearts and minds about the candidate come November? I venture to say that it's possible that the revelations presented here might do just that. But the overarching takeaway from Lucky Loser is that Donald Trump, in spite of his decades-long spin to the contrary, is, in fact, one of the worst businessmen in America. The story spans almost a century. It starts with how Donald's father, Fred, waged a secret battle with the IRS to avoid taxation, hiring former IRS officials to leverage their insider connections to produce extra profits for him from programs funded by the government post-World War II. Fred grew that fortune, transferring money to his still young children, keeping the fortune in the family and away from the taxman. Donald's siblings, for different reasons, didn't get their father's attention. His sisters were, well, female, and the eldest son was an alcoholic and passed over in favor of Donald, who became Fred's number one son. This preferential treatment created the most important relationship in Donald's life, the one that he had with his father. Through public filings and confidential business records, Buettner and Craig show how Fred bankrolled his son with taxable gifts masquerading as loans. This tax fraud that went unnoticed until the authors uncovered it. Donald learned many things from his father, including how to manipulate the value of assets. He decided early in his career to publicly claim his father's wealth as his own. He received more than $1 billion from his father via means that required no business expertise whatsoever. There's a great deal here on every aspect of his financial life. His failed real estate deals, the golf courses that went belly up, and the casino fiascos. But I won't go into detail and let you be amazed by the TikTok that Buettner and Craig provide. But as an example, let me just highlight the story of The Apprentice. The authors present the behind-the-scenes detail of how television producer Mark Burnett edited into existence a substantial, competent version of Donald Trump. And that version catapulted him to the White House. And how the show provided him with his only successful financial windfall by collecting from sponsors $427 million directly into his own pocket, bypassing the network and the show's producers, by making celebrity deals and negotiating product placement. Lucky Loser reveals the secret side deals Trump made with advertisers who were paying millions to be featured on the show. The rush of cash Trump got from the show would allow him to buy more businesses and paper over the failures at businesses that he already ran. I could go on because this book is so rich and detailed. But I'm going to stop here and say that I think it might well be very possible that Lucky Loser may be the most important book published at this critical moment of American political history.
We hope you enjoyed hearing from the editor. Now here's a sneak peek of the book. Happy listening.
Trump had never run for public office, but had publicly toyed with the idea, testing the waters in 1988, 2000, 2003, and 2013. The 2016 campaign began like another quixotic play, perhaps intended to generate attention that he could monetize. Trump became the leading candidate too late to allow enough time to pry into his tightly held family operation. Chief executives of public corporations face a merciless grading period every 120 days, but only Trump graded Trump. The veracity of the claim that his business track record reflected the kind of thinking that would save America was buried in the records of a small company started by his father almost a century earlier. We set out to find the truth. We began by gathering reams of public documents related to his father Fred's career, deeds, mortgages, court records, and congressional testimony. We closely analyzed the details of financial disclosure forms his sister had been required to file as a federal judge. We tracked down sources who had worked with Fred Trump and Donald Trump. One court case in particular held great potential. After Fred's death, the adult children of Donald's deceased brother had accused their aunts and uncles of wrongfully cutting them out of Fred's estate. During the legal battle, some number of Fred's financial records had been turned over to Mary Trump and Fred Trump III, Donald's niece and nephew. Our preliminary reporting suggested that Fred Trump III, known as Fritz, remained close and perhaps reliant on his aunts and uncles. Suzanne took the lead in seeing whether Mary Trump might be interested in sharing the records she had received about her grandfather's finances. After rebuffing a few early contacts, Mary Trump opened her front door to Suzanne. Soon after, we all, Mary, Suzanne, Russ, and our Times colleague David Barstow, sat in Mary's living room and discussed the potential revelations locked away in her lawyer's file room. Mary did not know much about her grandfather's business, but she understood the importance of voters knowing more about her family history. She appreciated the risks she would be taking and decided to proceed anyway. She surprised us with an unserious idea. She wanted all of us to go see the new Steven Spielberg film, The Post, which dramatized the Washington Post's efforts to publish the Pentagon Papers, a secret history of U.S. involvement in Vietnam. The four of us met at a theater on 34th Street on a weeknight and proceeded to watch handsome renditions of newspaper reporters and editors sift through records, meet with confidential sources, and deal with external pressures. After the movie, Mary asked us, "Is that like what you guys will do?" We looked at one another for a beat. "Pretty much," we said. One drizzly fall evening not long after, Mary drove a rented van to her lawyer's office, filled it with boxes of records, and returned to her home on Long Island where we were waiting. We then transported those boxes back to a secret office at the Times, where we would spend most of the next year analyzing about 100,000 pages of audited financial statements, tax returns, bank records, general ledgers, and legal papers. The resulting story, published in October 2018, revealed for the first time that Donald Trump had received the equivalent of more than $400 million from his father, much of it through fraudulent tax evasion schemes. The story disproved Donald Trump's lifelong claim that his father gave him nothing more than a small $1 million loan. For our work exposing the true state of Trump's finances, we were honored with a Pulitzer Prize. Mary Trump revealed her work with us in her best-selling book about her uncle, Too Much and Never Enough. As our reporting continued, we developed more sources from the Trump universe, many of whose names we cannot reveal. There were clandestine meetings in out-of-the-way places and chats on burner phones. During some of those meetings, sources provided us with Donald Trump's business and personal tax returns spanning several decades. That work resulted in several lengthy investigative articles in the Times. Newspaper articles, though, rarely allow for the telling of a life story, a family story, a career, in the full breadth it deserves, especially a life as singular and consequential as Donald Trump's. And so we began work on this book. We have since spent 3 years building upon our prior reporting by conducting hundreds of new interviews and acquiring additional documents, including confidential correspondence, internal business records from The Apprentice, and unpublished memoirs. The result offers unprecedented insights into the most central factor of Trump's identity: his money. By revealing the true sources behind his wealth and the ways in which he lost so much of it, new details and larger truths emerged about the kind of thinking he has displayed in business and entertainment. For the first time, financial records set straight Donald Trump's chaotic onslaught of untruths and misdirection. The sum of our work is an epic American tale, one set against a backdrop of broad economic and cultural changes that benefited Donald Trump perhaps more than anyone.
Thank you for listening and supporting our books. To learn more about what's coming up, follow us online. Links are in the show notes. We'll see you next time.